Back in the hot seat again.
As always.
Yeah.
Where I like to be.
A bit of a different episode today.
Yeah.
A bonus episode. We are going to talk about, what do you call it? A project?
Campaign.
A campaign.
It's a charity campaign, right?
Right. So, if you don't know, I'm sure many of our listeners and members will, might be rowing across the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean next year, for Leeds Hospital Charity, formerly Leeds Cares. And today we're just going to find out what it entails to do such a feat. And we've got our listeners and our members to write in some questions. So my job's kind of easy today. I'm just going to read some questions that have already been set for us. So Mike, why don't you give us like a bit of tell us a bit about, before we go into questions, how they start, what is it, that kind of stuff.
Well, shall I explain why I'm doing it? I mean, because that's the first question. Like, people are going to ask, like, why is this guy going to try and row across an ocean on his own? Well, it's 10 years to the week. In fact, on Saturday will be 10 years to the day when our youngest son was born. You guys, if you are members, you'll see Coach Gabe on the mat. A handsome young fellow that he is. When he was born 9 weeks prematurely. He was only 3.5 pounds. He was see-through, and it was an emergency cesarean, and we only just kind of got him out in time. It was a very, very poorly baby, obviously being 9 weeks prem, and he was cared for in intensive care on a ventilator for a while. He was in hospital for a long time, and then we finally got him home, and then he contracted meningitis, went back to intensive care and special care, and we spent months in and out of intensive care, special care unit, etc., etc. And we had a 10-month-old at the time as well, so we were trying to do both. And we were actually doing like 24 hours on, 24 hours off, me and my wife in hospital. We were there the whole time. And that process was very traumatic, and his life was saved on a number of occasions. I remember quite vividly, although I don't think about it often, where we almost lost him. And had it not been for the care of the doctors, nurses, the consultants there, and the equipment that they've got, he wouldn't have survived. And we saw lots of babies who didn't survive in that process, right? On a daily basis, machines were being turned off. So unless you've been in that environment, you don't know that stuff goes on. And there are parents there today with very, very poorly babies and children, hoping that they make it through till tomorrow. So what I didn't realise at the time was a lot of the specialist equipment isn't purchased through the NHS. The NHS pays for the staff. Any specialist equipment, for instance, twins are born quite often prematurely, right? And they're in the womb together. They come out, they go into separate incubators, because to buy a double twin incubator, 30 grand. The NHS doesn't pay for that. The charity pays for that. So what I want to do is try and raise a minimum of £50,000 to give back to that unit. Well, give to Leeds Hospital Charity. They will do something for that unit that will decide upon close to the time. And that's why I'm doing this, to repay that kind of debt that I feel that we owe. I mean, I have done some lower level sponsorship where I've raised a couple of grand like straight after, but it feels to me like 10 years on, we need to do something big. So that's what we're doing. So was that kind of why it came about around this time, or was there something else? There was a kind of like coming together of a few things. Like, I'd not done anything for myself for some time, so I got my black belt in 2017. I'd kind of, my jiu-jitsu quietened off a little bit. I was coaching for Lewis in Harrogate. My job was the priority at that point. I wasn't doing anything for me really, so I was starting to look around and think, right, I need to do something for me. I'm a goal-oriented person. I'm going to talk about goals on the Q&A tomorrow, right? And I always set myself big goals, and I thought I need to do something. At the same time, I was thinking, and I need to do something for that. Like I still haven't paid that back. And it's interesting because I locked away all those memories of Gabriel being poorly in like a little box in my mind, and they don't come out very often. When they do, it's quite emotional. So, that had been unlocked, and then I was starting to kind of wonder what I needed to do. And then at that point, I thought, right, I need to do something big. And I don't know how the ocean rowing thing came about. It just kind of, as all these kind of things do sometimes in life, it just appeared. I was like, okay, I don't know anything about rowing. I've never rowed in my life before. I'm not built as a rower. And this is the world's toughest row. Why not?
Right, okay. So you just kind of appeared, it kind of brought itself to you just at the right time of a crescendo of things.
I don't know where I saw it. Maybe I saw a documentary or saw something on social media. I can't remember. Anyway, I kind of became aware of it. And this was about August 2019. And then so I had this idea that I thought, okay, that is huge. And it had to be something, I want to raise a big amount of money. So it couldn't be, right, let's go run a marathon, right? And this is all relative, but when you've already done quite big challenges, like you've been in the Marines, you've done treks over the Arctic, whatever you've done, the next goal needs to be bigger. So it always just grows, right? So I thought, how do I raise that amount of money? It has to be something that when I tell people what I'm doing and ask for their support, they go, what? Right, okay, I'm prepared to get behind that. And when I heard about that there are people who row across oceans, I thought, that's pretty big. And then when I got thinking about it and got chatting to some people and I realised that you could do it on your own, solo and unsupported, that to me is the purest, most demanding way to do it. And that's what I'm going to do.
Excellent, man. So should we dive into some questions? Because quite a few came through.
Yeah.
So first one from Indy. I'll read it out just as you put it. Be interesting to see the boat that will be used and companies are sponsoring. Where would the company have their names shown on the boat or clothing?
Yeah, so it's not like a rowing boat in the park, right? Obviously, you're in the ocean, so it's a specifically made ocean rowing boat, the key element to an ocean rowing boat is the fact that it will self-right. So when it capsizes, and it will capsize in the middle of the ocean, it's going to happen. It will self-right, pretty quickly. You hope it does, and you just need to cling on while that happens, and it's just being like in a washing machine, right? You come back through. So the boat's a solo ocean rowing boat. The big company who makes them are called Rannoch. They make an R25 solo. It's 24 foot long, 6.5 foot wide, fully laden. It's going to weigh about half a ton, and I've got to row that across. One thing you're not allowed to obviously do is you're not allowed to use any sails or any motors. You have to row it across. But the route that we're going to take between La Gomera and the Canaries and Antigua will give some kind of trade wind. Hopefully there'll be some wind and it'll help us blow us across. In terms of sponsorship, what that boat looks like is if you have basically two cabins, one on each end, and then an open platform to row on. And the setup on the platform is pretty much like any kind of erg, right? It's a seat, some straps, 2 oars. One cabin will be for stores, and the other cabin is where I can kind of shelter from the elements in. I don't say sleep because you don't tend to sleep. I'll be rowing a minimum 12 to 15 hours a day every day for however long it takes, probably about 50, 60, 70 days, who knows. And then the sponsorship, to answer the question about sponsorship, and this is the big drive for me now, hence one of the reasons we're doing this, I really need to be able to purchase this boat soon, or at least put a deposit down on a boat soon. And what I'm offering in return for corporate sponsorship is obviously brand placement on the boat. And so those 2 big cabins, if you imagine they're the size of this, I can lay down in one, right? You can put logos, branding, and it gets vinyl wrapped basically. So all the press around the race, it's a big race, all the press around it, everyone gets to see your brand.
Just because you mentioned it, I'm just going to ask one of Toby's questions, which was, where is the start and the finish?
So it goes from a place called San Sebastian in La Gomera in the Canary Islands. It's exactly the same route that Christopher Columbus took. So he set off from San Sebastian in the Canaries, ends up in English Harbour in Antigua. 3,000 miles. straight across east to west. Like I say, hopefully picking up those easterly trade winds to get us there. So that's the exact route.
So, and question from Soaps, will anyone be there to meet you at the finish?
I hope so. Well, you could come along if you want. Like, anyone can be there. So, I mean, it's quite. They make quite a big deal of it when you arrive in English Harbour. You should be. You'll be on the boat with the flares. There'll be lots of kind of all the big yachts will be kind of tooting their foghorns. Big crowd comes to meet you. Hopefully, my family are there. Some friends are there. Sponsors maybe. Anyone can be there.
Question from Toby again. What will you eat and drink, and how do you make your food?
So, because weight's a massive issue, you want to be using dehydrated rations, right? You want to keep the weight of the boat to a minimum because obviously you've got to row it across. So, if you're taking tins of beans, they're going to weigh a lot. You're going to be able to row. You've got to row that across. So, most ocean rowers will. Let's talk about the calories first, real quick. So, I'm going to lose 20% of my body weight, like everyone does. There's a guy who rowed this year called Rob Hamilton. He set off at 104 kilos, finished at 82. So he lost a lot of weight. He's quite a big, muscly guy. I've got to consume for my body weight about 6,000 calories a day. So high calorie dehydrated meals is what I will eat. And a lot of snacks. So because obviously I'm going to be rowing a lot. So if I'm stopping to make the food, I'm not rowing. And so you've got to get the balance right. There's a guy local to here who did it in 2019, actually won the solo class markers. And he was so intent on winning the race that he didn't even stop to make hot food. He just put it in a Tupperware container and let the sun heat it up. I'm not sure I'm going to go to that length. I think I'd like at least one hot meal a day. And it's just like any kind of camping stove, right, on a gimbal. So as the boat lists, the gimbal will keep it straight and you just cook your food like that.
Mm. So how many Terry's chocolate oranges will you be stowing away?
3 a day. They weigh quite a lot. Right?
Worth it though.
Yeah. So a lot of people take a lot of chocolate. And when you see the amount of food laid out in your pre-race inspection, because it's a very tightly kind of controlled race, obviously from a safety perspective, it's masses of food. I've got to take 90 days worth of food, and 20% of that food has got to be wet rations as well, just in case my kind of stove breaks. So there'll be some kind of military type wet rations, but the majority of it, hopefully I won't break into them because I'll have finished before I need to. Mm-hmm. But if something goes wrong or my oars snap and I'm kind of paddling my way to Antigua, then I'm going to need to break into them.
It kind of leads to a question that Toby had again was, do you carry all of your supplies?
Yeah. So it's an unsupported row, so no one's allowed to come on board to kind of help me. And there's not a lot of room for anyone else anyway. So there's one support yacht in the ocean. There'll be 32 teams. Of those 32 teams, the majority are teams, so teams of 4 or pairs or trios. And then there's a handful usually of solo rowers. Interestingly, in 2022, next year when I'm doing it, it's the largest collection of soloists. So it's quite a lot of soloists. I think there's been 11, solo boats going out. And that's the most I've ever had for some reason. But there's only one support yacht. So you will see that yacht once in those 60 days. The rest of the time, you don't see anybody. And after the first 5 to 7 hours, the boat's spread because you can take your own course. And you will take your own course. And the waves are so big, they're like the size of houses, right? You just don't see anyone else. And so you are alone for the whole of that time. Apart from the sharks.
And the marlin. Another one from Toby. What's the toilet situation?
The toilet situation, Toby, I'm glad you asked, is a bucket. So it's nothing more than that, really. So a builder's bucket with a little bit of seawater in the bottom. I'm led to believe there's a real kind of fine balance between not too much water, because no one wants splashback, and not enough water, because no one wants stickage, right? So, if it's a wee, it's going over the side. If it's not a wee, then sit on the bucket, throw it into the ocean to feed the fish, give it a swirl out, put it back on deck, clean it out, that's it.
Happy days. Will you bring like a little bucket seat warmer, you think? Or?
I might go full extravagant here and actually get like one of them buckets for camping with a toilet seat on.
All right. Yeah.
So I can actually relax.
But I was just wondering if you're going to get like a fluffy pink kind of warmer kind of thing.
No. No. It's going to be warm enough. Like I think the nights are quite cool, but in the day, particularly the second half, when you're getting towards the Caribbean, it's hot. Yeah. And that's one of the major issues is dehydration.
Okay, question from Colin. 2 questions. What's the sleep routine? You can already mention that a little bit.
Well, when you do it as a team, most teams, I would say 99% of teams do a 2 hours on, 2 hours off shift pattern. So if you were in a team of 2, if it was me and you, I'd row for 2 hours, you'd row for 2 hours, like 24 hours a day. And in those 2 hours off, I will eat, recover, repair the boat, because there's got a lot of that going on. Electric's going to break, stuff's going to go wrong, and then sleep at some point. As a soloist, you have a little bit more, well, I can do what I want, but the more I sleep, the less I'm rowing, the longer it's going to take. So it's getting a balance. In my head, having thought a little bit about this, I'd like to try and get at least one bit of REM sleep. So at least a 3-hour sleep at some point, probably at night when it's darker, my body wants to sleep. So I think I'm going to try mix up my row shifts. Maybe some are 1 hour, maybe some are 3 hours, and depending on the heat of the day. And try and minimize my exposure to the sun in the heat of the day and row a lot more kind of into the evening and then really early morning. And maybe just get a 3-hour sleep in the night.
Do you know if anyone's ever experimented with like, right, I'm getting 8 hours and I'm just going to row the rest of the day?
Yeah. People do that, for sure. Right. Yeah, people just hang out. People start fishing, just enjoying it. It takes them 90 days. They're not bothered. That's it. So you can do whatever you want to do. I think there was an ex-Special Forces guy last year did it. Took him 92 days, I think, or 89 days, something like that. Right. Yeah. For lots of different reasons I won't go into. Preparation's the key, right? So, you've got to do 120 hours qualifying rowing at sea. 24 hours, that's got to be at night. There's loads of kind of checks and balances you've got to do, qualifications, all sorts of stuff. So
you can't just rock up in your dinghy.
You can't just turn up. If you do, it's life-threatening, right? This is a dangerous thing as well. So you've got to be prepared.
Second question from Colin. How are you developing your hands for the friction/abrasion?
Yeah, my hands are pretty well calloused up anyway, just from the years of training. The big problem with the hands is because you're in this kind of position the whole time, you really need to remember to stretch your hands out on the recovery. So in the catch and the drive, you obviously need to hold the oars, but in the recovery of the stroke, you need to open your hands. If you don't do that and you stay like this, when you get to Antigua, you cannot open your hands. You get what they call claw hand. And you're literally like this for a long time, and you have to try and peel your hands open. Can't really eat. So you've got to remember to kind of keep opening your hands up. My hands are going to get torn to shreds. That's going to happen, right? Some people say you should put like white spirit on to harden them up. I'm just training to harden them up. So I'm just rowing a lot. I don't use gloves. I just row, and they'll be tough enough.
No little gloves for you then?
No little gloves, mate. No.
Fingerless gloves?
No. I imagine that's what you... If you go to the gym, I imagine you have like...
I don't.
No?
Not yet.
You don't go to the gym, that's why.
Well, gyms aren't open, that's why. From Bob Hardin, what do you think will be the toughest part of the challenge?
So they say that the first 7 days is horrendous because you get massively seasick. Even if you're a seasoned sailor, it's very different being in a very low ocean rowing. But it's like, it's like driving a Ferrari. Do you know what I mean? Not at that speed, but in terms of the how close you are to the ground or to the sea. So you feel every wave, and the waves are as tall as this building. They're massive. They're like hills, right? So you get picked up on these 30, 40 foot waves and then fly down the back. You get massively seasick. You get, before you get into the routine of the sleep, massively sleep deprived, you're starving. The first 7 days are meant to be horrendous. I think once you're over that, you get into a routine and you become kind of nomadic and you become part of the boat. And actually when people finish, a lot of people want to stay out there because they get used to that just being on your own, you know, and that is quite a nice kind of thing, right? I think the toughest thing is going to be sleep deprivation and then solitude as well. You know, like there's no one there. So it's just you. And the kind of view never changes. I mean, they're meant to be beautiful sunrises and sunsets, and the stars are amazing. If you've ever been to the desert, like in Iraq and stuff, when you look at the sky, it's a different type of sky. Beautiful skies. But the rest of the time, it's ocean, isn't it? There's not many colours, there's not a lot to smell. So it's gonna be weird.
A question from Coach T here. What will you do to keep yourself entertained on the oars?
So I will take some music and some podcasts and stuff like that, hopefully. Most people do that. Although Marcus, when he went, his speaker was swept overboard on day 2. And so I had nothing
for
like a long time. And that's quite tough. I think you need some stimulus, right? So music, podcasts. Some people go fishing. I'm not a fisherman, so I'm not going to do that. You know, I see my off time off the oars as being recovery focused, and then on the oars I'm rowing because I want to get there as quick as I can.
If you're listening to the North Leeds Jitz,
I will definitely listen to
the Tier 1 podcast.
I'm not sure actually how it's going to work. I'm going to have to download a load of stuff onto some kind of memory stick or something.
Probably, yeah.
I guess. But again, like, you know, that could fail. You could end up on your own. And I think that's where, in terms of preparation, you've got to get your head around all this stuff. You've got it, because if you haven't thought through what happens if, we can talk about kind of mental preparation if you want, but if we haven't thought about that and we're not prepared for that, that's when people go mad at sea, and they do.
So that leads us on maybe a little bit to Stephen's question. How do you simulate possible ocean conditions whilst training?
Well, you can't, unless you've got the funds to, you know, go out to some deep water and start to actually experience them. Marcus, when he did it, he was in the fortunate position that had finances to be able to take a team out to the Med and did some big kind of blue water training. I won't be able to do that. I'm going to be in the North Sea, freezing to death next year. So the waves and things aren't going to be as big. I mean, in the middle of the Atlantic, it's 5k deep. Like, you're not going to simulate that anywhere else, really. You can't do that on land. You know, we were joking yesterday, you know, you could throw buckets of water on yourself while you're rowing. It's not the same. I think what you can do is you can condition yourself as best as possible to withstand all the hardships, mentally, physically. You can callous yourself up. But that's why the first week's horrendous no matter what training you've done, because you need to get your head around the fact that you're rowing away from land into this big blue expansive ocean, and it's going to be dreadful. And there's no preparing for that.
Another question from Soaps. How do your family feel about you doing the challenge?
So it was August 2019. I had this kind of idea that I wanted to do it. It wasn't until November that I managed to talk Sarah into the fact that it was okay to do it. And I think if you asked her, she's still a bit like, I'm not sure what, you know, why he's doing this. She knows why I'm doing it, but like why you would want to do something like that. But they're very supportive now, and that's great. And I wanted this to be something that we could all be a part of. You know, my sons are both at a very at an age where I want to demonstrate to them how far you can push yourself. I think there'll be a really good formative experience for them to see me go through this. You know, they see me get up and go into the garage every morning and train hard. It's no surprise that they're quite happy to go out and play football all day, because that's what they see the parents doing, and I want to give them that kind of role model experience, really. So yeah, the family behind it. Not all my family. I've had some fallings out with some other people that we won't talk about.
Question from San. How will you reward yourself when you get back? And he has a suggestion of opening a bottle of Macallan 25-year-old Sherry Oak, I hope.
I'd love to do that with you, Sam. Absolutely, mate. Well, it's sponsored by Talisker, the race, right? So there's a lot of whiskey consumed, I think, in Antigua. Everyone talks about like what's your first meal going to be, what you're going to have. Most people just go and get a burger, I think. I don't know really. The celebration for me will be handing over a cheque to Leeds Hospital charity, right? And knowing that will make a difference. And then the platform that hopefully provides me to do other things that I want to do in business and just, like really just show people that, there's a big part of this now. It wasn't at the start, it was all about the charity, but now it's kind of broadened out that I really want to show people that you can dream big and you can achieve it. Because if I can do it, man, anyone can do it. I'm 5'8" and a bit, never rowed in my life, don't really like deep water. I've got to get off the boat every few days and clean the bottom of the boat. There's sharks knocking about. I'm not looking forward to that. But anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it, right?
Two questions from Harry. One you covered a little bit. Why did you choose this challenge? The other is, were there other challenges you'd considered?
Not really. I mean, I wanted to do something that most people, like I say, people would go, what? And most people wouldn't do. There's not a lot of people rowed across the Atlantic solo. I think there's like maybe 30 or something. Not a lot of people. A lot of people have done like Marathon des Sables, running something that's a bit more accessible. It's an easier project to pull together. What I'm finding is, it's a bit of a cliche, but they say the hardest part is getting to the start line. The sponsorship drive, the preparation to do an ocean row, the logistics of it is massive. Everyone focuses on the training, how do you train for it? What are you doing training wise? The logistics of it and just getting the money together, because I need to raise like at least 70 or 80 grand to make this even happen. And then, obviously we'll be gifting, when I sell the boat back to someone else, we're gifting that money to the charity. So it's just a mammoth operation, really. I hadn't considered anything else. There was nothing I could find or thought of that was as challenging, really. I've done big treks, like I said before, and they've been races and placed really well in them. I couldn't think of anything else that was going to be as hard.
Apart from a question from Toby, apart from a little picture of Coach T, what personal items will you be taking? I did that first, but
I'll probably have a picture of my family, and that's probably it. I think they're not. I don't think they're going to give me any comfort when I'm out there. It's going to be Christmas, so I set off in early December, so I'll be out there at Christmas. Maybe I might have a couple of Christmas presents to open from the kids or whatever. You have to have a couple of sat phones, so that's kind of the personal thing. I'll be able to call home every now and again and see how everyone's doing, hopefully. But in terms of personal items, man, I'm not there to be comfortable. I'm there to be uncomfortable. So I just see myself getting my head down and just rowing.
A question from Jonathan. How will you deal with / prepare for the isolation / psychological impact?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And not 100% sure yet. So I think I'm going to go and spend a little bit of time on my own beforehand. And by that I mean like completely cut off. No phone, no nothing. Maybe just in the camper van out in northern Scotland or something. Just maybe for a week and just be with me. That's what I want to do for that. Although I still don't think that really helps you prepare for 60 odd days. I'm going to go and see a sports psychologist. I know someone. I haven't asked them yet, but I'm going to ask them if they'll help me do that and just kind of go through all the what ifs. So, when I have to say, when I capsize, when there's a storm, when I get attacked by a marlin and it pierces the bottom of the boat like it did for 2 boats this year, and there's a blooming marlin beak poking through the thing and the thing's leaking. When my electrics fail through the salt, all that's when my water maker breaks and I'm now hand doing it in the 2 hours I've got off and I'm still working out. I need to have kind of thought through all the possible problems and have a strategy to deal with them. And I think if you don't prepare fully, it's that kind of cliche again, you're prepared to fail, aren't you? I don't want to be, I think the scariest thing will be to be in the middle of the ocean and something happen that haven't thought of or prepared for. And that's when you're really going to see who you are, right?
So I just wanted to give, we've had some questions coming through Instagram as well, but I think we've kind of covered them, but I'll give the shout out for the people that actually took time. Tom Slade also asked how you're going to prepare for this mentally, so thank you for that, Tom. I think it's Leslie pedaling in Jitz, is it?
Yeah.
Did you consider any challenges instead of this? We kind of covered that. And Grant also asked what the nutrition is going to be like, which we've covered a little bit as well, haven't we?
So on the nutrition thing again, just to kind of, so freeze-dried meal is probably 3 a day, 1,000 calories each, and then that's kind of half my calorie intake. The other half will be a snack bag about this big, which will be chocolate and crisps and nuts, and not crisps, nuts, things like that, high calorie items. And the other way I'm preparing, of course, is just training really hard, like every single day. So I'm fortunate. The one kind of bit of help I took on straight away was a performance coach, because I wanted to make sure my physical preparation was absolutely nailed down. So again, up there, I knew when I pushed off in La Gomera, I could look across all the other boats and think, I am the best physically prepared athlete here, and I will know that. And so I get up, depending on the block, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week, and hurt myself every day in the garage. I don't go to a commercial gym when it's nice and warm and it's nice and clean. I go into my garage. It's been -4, -5, -6 this winter. There's rats in there. Literally, there's rats in there. And I just work out in there and just suffer on my own. And that hour on my own of hurting myself is part of the callousing of not only my body, but my mind. And, when it's tough and I'm tired and I don't want to get up and do it, you've got to pull yourself out and get it done, right?
So those are the kind of questions we had come in from members. So thank you very much, guys. I think there's still a few topics we can cover. I think we've not talked too much about the logistics of like the build up for it. So you mentioned briefly that you've got to do like a certain amount of hours on the ocean beforehand, and you've got to do some night rowing and stuff like that. How does that all come about? Is that just you like being like, how does it get tracked? How do they know you've done that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so with any boat, you've got to log what you're doing, So I've actually signed up to do my day skipper and my yacht master theory. I actually signed up a year ago and I've still not completed them. I'm supposed to have done them within a year. Obviously, I've been doing other things like this place. So I need to get that done. I need to do my shortwave radio course, my first aid at sea course, my sea survival. Although I've done that before, I need to do it again. And then in terms of like going and doing the training, I need to moor the boat up on the North Sea somewhere. I know Hartlepool's been used before. And as of next March, April, May, June, July, August, until I ship the boat out, I'll be out there as often as possible, just tooling around in the North Sea. I see perhaps going out on a Saturday afternoon after the classes, doing a night row, anchoring out offshore, and then kind of doing some day work, and then anchoring out again, doing a night row again, coming in to harbour on the Monday, coming back and teaching on the Monday night. I think I'll do that quite a few times, and maybe do a long piece. Minimum 120 hours. I'm going to do more than that, because again, that's like full preparation, right? That's the plan for.
How do you think those Monday night classes are going to go?
You'll be dead tired, man. You're going to be teaching them. What are you on about?
Yeah, but I was going to volunteer. Like, you got to get me up for the 6 a.m. Tuesday class.
I know, yeah. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be really, 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 really tough to get it all squeezed in. But again, and part of me sees, this sounds a bit perverse, right? But part of me sees 60 days at sea as the reward for this 2 years of like hurt. Again, this morning, tired, I've talked about it, I hit a PB on my rowing today, been out this morning, worked really hard, dead tired. I've got to teach some classes today, we taught last night. It's just really, really hard, man. It is like a full-time job on the side. Just before coming on here, I was writing sponsorship letters alongside running the business. It's a crazy amount of work, but I think it's going to be worth it. And there's also a lot of other stuff that I'm doing. So we talk about kind of the other things within the build-up as well. So I'm hoping to do, in order to fundraise, I'm hoping to do a 48-hour row during the ITU Triathlon at Roundy Park. The idea I think I want to do is maybe starting rowing when the first amateur race starts and ending when the elite race finishes on the Sunday. So it'll be about 38 hours or something. We'll do that. And then I'm going to be doing a 24-hour row probably in each A&E in Leeds. So maybe one at St James's, maybe one at Leeds General. And then in the winter, I plan to do something I'm dubbing the 12 rows of Christmas, which will likely manifest itself in 12 marathons in 12 days. Again, just with the idea of raising awareness, trying to pull in more sponsorship, and yeah, just making it, bringing people along with the journey. And then next year, hopefully, like a super seminar for Jiu-Jitsu, some huge names, so all the members can benefit as well. We raise a bit of money, and then a charity ball in the summer of 2022, which again, I hope you guys all will come, and that'll be a really nice place in Leeds. Black tie, get some celebrities in there, and do a charity auction, and again, raise some money. Raising the cash is the hardest thing, without a doubt. The training bit is easy. If you've got money, and there's some people who are in my year of the race who've got lots of money, they've just bought themselves a boat. I'll just build the best boat, the fastest boat going. If you've got 80 grand, good for you. I ain't got 80 quid. So it's all about fundraising. So as a pledge, anyone who wants to donate, you can go to my Instagram. To the link tree there, you can donate directly through there. There's the 250 Club, which will get you your name on the boat with me for 250 quid. And also a social post. If you know anyone in business, I'm really interested right now, to hear from people in the corporate world who want their brand on the boat. And those packages start from 5,000 quid. And I don't need the money right now. I just need the confidence to be able to secure the boat with a deposit. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to put some more of my own money in, and I just can't afford it.
Yeah, and it's not just that they get the marketing from the boat; they've also just doing a good thing as well, isn't it?
Well, that's the one thing I think now coming out the back of this coronavirus pandemic potentially is that we get to if you're part of the journey with me, then you can reflect on this last 12 months with a positive end. There's something to celebrate going forward. You're still supporting the NHS in a really crucial way, and yeah, you'll have 12 months of following my journey with me and being a part of it, and that's something that's going to be exciting. Of course, for anyone who gets on board in a corporate way or in a big ticket way, there's all sorts of stuff I'm offering in terms of after dinner speaking or helping out with your staff, motivational speaking. You can come out for a day on the boat with me. You can come training with me, whatever you want to do.
Well, Mike, unless you had any other topics, I just wanted to read you a quick message and we'll close up.
No topics, mate. But thank you everyone for your support. Hopefully I'll pull it off. There's always a chance, of course, because we're talking here like it's going to get done. There's always a chance it won't work because, I have to raise that amount of money to make it happen. I'll do absolutely everything. But I'll stop short of remortgaging the house because it's not worth kind of putting my family's livelihood at risk just for this. So yeah.
Got a message from a man I think called Chris Bates.
Oh yeah, I know him quite well.
Yep. He says, I think it's an epic challenge, but knowing my brother, I know anything he puts his mind to, he does 110% and will ultimately succeed. Just like being a Marine and setting up Gracie Barra, it's a testament to who he is, and I'm proud to say he's my bro.
Oh, that's nice, Chris. Thank you very much. Get me a bit of totes and mosh. Yeah, well, it's nice to hear, right? I think I just want to show people that, you can do whatever you want to do, even starting a business in a pandemic. It's not what most people would have chosen to do. The job I was in before, people write books. I will write a book about it one day. People write books about that stuff. It's a cool ass job. But the reason I left was because they wouldn't allow me to do this row. So that's how much it means to me, right? I left a 20-year career serving the country in a job that I loved, that most people would watch films about. And but they couldn't get their head around my social media presence because it was a covert role. And I understand that. So I made a decision that I was going to push forward with this and create something for the community, which I hope will be, something that inspires someone else to do something great. So, yeah, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that, man.
Cool. Cheers, Mike.
Thanks.